Hello, hello. Today we're going to talk about SS Social Studies 4H1. We're going to talk about some history. We're going to explain the causes, events, and results of the American Revolution. In this particular video, we're going to focus on the causes.
Let me tell you something, brother, about the revolutionary movement in America.
We're going to trace the events that shaped the revolutionary movement in America. We're going to talk about the French and Indian War, the 1765 Stamp Act, the colonial slogans including "No taxation without representation," the Sons of Liberty, the Daughters of Liberty, the Boston Massacre, and the Boston Tea Party. Here is a graphic representation of what we're going to be talking about in the order that we're going to be talking about it.
Yeah, buddy, we're going to explain the causes, events, and results of the American Revolution. Hi-ya!
First, the French and Indian War. The French and Indian War was fought between Great Britain and its two enemies, the French and the Native Americans of North America. Most of the battles were in the Ohio Valley and in Canada. American colonists, including George Washington, fought with the British in this war. The French and Indian War lasted from 1754 to 1763. The British won the war and won the right to control North America for at least a while.
For the 1000th time, you can talk about the French and Indian War. I am not an Indian, I am a Native American.
Now let's talk about the 1765 Stamp Act.
You, sir, are under arrest for not paying your fee with the 1765 Stamp Act. Oh yeah.
Next, let's talk about the 1765 Stamp Act. Hoya! Yeah, baby, let's talk about the 1765 Stamp Act. Hoya! The Stamp Act was the first internal tax given directly to the British colonists. In 1765, the Stamp Act imposed a tax on all paper documents that was used in the colonies. Colonists were furious because they felt like they were being taxed unfairly and without representation from the British Parliament. The 1765 Stamp Act was a direct consequence of the British Empire being deeply in debt after the French and Indian War. The Stamp Act in the colonies was very unpopular. The Stamp Act was replaced the next year in 1766. Let's talk about some colonial slogans, including the big one,
"No taxation without representation."
"No taxation without representation." Okay, so how did we come up with "no taxation without representation"? Well, it was a slogan that was used in the streets, in the parlors, in the pubs, and in meetings with patriots that lived in the British colonies. Well, when you have the Stamp Act of 1765, that was England's idea of getting the colonists to pay for the French and Indian War, plus angry colonists. How can a country across the Atlantic Ocean make decisions for colonists in North America and give them no say? That gives you no taxation without representation. They also called it tyranny, which is unfair rule.
Come on, tell them about the Sons of Liberty.
Okay, your wish is my command. Defend the Republic. If you take a look at this snake, that's actually an illustration that was used by Benjamin Franklin in one of his publications. Pretty much, he came to the consensus that we all should hang together or we will hang separately. If you see the initials, you'll see the initials of some of the colonies that were in existence at the time. And what he said was, we can be powerful as one snake, but chopped up into little bitty pieces, we're no good. Okay, so we're going to talk about some positives and negatives associated with the Sons of Liberty. First and foremost, the positives. These men protested the 1765 Stamp Act in addition to many other taxes that they thought were unfair. They were responsible for the Boston Tea Party. Samuel Adams and Paul Revere led the Sons of Liberty in Massachusetts. The Sons of Liberty existed throughout the colonies. They organized demonstrations, enforced boycotts, and protests against England's policies and unfair taxes. Now the negatives. The Sons of Liberty sometimes used violence, including tarring and feathering. George Washington and Benjamin Franklin did not support the Boston Tea Party. The Boston Tea Party was an act of destruction on government property. So who were the Sons of Liberty? Well, one was John Adams, a wealthy lawyer that lived in Boston. Paul Revere, he was a member of the Sons of Liberty. Samuel Adams, a cousin of John Adams. John Hancock, one of the wealthiest men in the world at the time. He had a large inheritance from his uncle. And we have Dr. Joseph Warren, who is a revolutionary patriot from Boston.
Daughters of Liberty!
Oh Lord, let's talk about the Daughters of Liberty. We talked about the Sons of Liberty, let's talk about the Daughters. The Daughters of Liberty consisted of women who displayed their patriotism by participating in boycotts of British goods. Martha Washington was the wife of George Washington. She provided food, clothing, and shelter to George Washington's troops during the cold winter months. Deborah Sampson dressed as a man and fought in the American Revolution as a man to support the cause. Sarah Bradley Fulton is credited with coming up with the idea that the Sons of Liberty that were involved in the 1773 Boston Tea Party should wear Mohawk Native American outfits to hide from British officials. This suggestion earned her the nickname Mother of the Tea Party.
Now tell us about the Boston Massacre!
The Boston Massacre occurred on the evening of March the 5th, 1770. The location of the incident was in front of the Customs House on King Street. 5 Boston citizens were killed in this massacre, including an African-American, Crispus Attucks. Paul Revere used the propaganda to incite the Boston citizens against the British.
Funsies!
Oh yeah.
It's all about the tea. I was definitely there. Boston Tea Party.
So let's talk about the Boston Tea Party. The Boston Tea Party occurred on December 16, 1774. 116 people are documented as having attended the protest. Members of the Massachusetts Sons of Liberty dressed as Mohawk Native Americans to avoid their identity being revealed. They destroyed chests of British tea from the 3 British ships anchored in the Boston harbor. The Boston Tea Party was a protest against the taxes on British tea. The Intolerable Acts were passed as a result of the Boston Tea Party. This effectively closed the Boston harbor until the destruction of the tea was paid for. This is a scene from the Boston Tea Party, and as you can see, it was a wild and chaotic night. The Sons of Liberty were responsible for the Boston Tea Party. So we have reviewed Social Studies 4, History 1. We have explained the causes, not necessarily the events or the results of the American Revolution. We have traced the events that helped shape the revolutionary movement in America. We have discussed the French and Indian War, the 1765 Stamp Act, colonial slogans including no taxation without representation, the Sons of Liberty, the Daughters of Liberty, the Boston Massacre, and the Boston Tea Party. Now it's quiz time. Number 1. Which event was a major conflict for control over North America? Number 2. Identify the group responsible for the act of protest known as the Boston Tea Party. Number 3. What did the slogan, "No taxation without representation," mean? Number 4. Cause, French and Indian War. What was a possible effect of it? Number 5. Who are some people that we learned were members of the Sons and Daughters of Liberty? Number 6. Who fought in the French and Indian War? Number 7. What caused the Boston Massacre? Number 8. Fair or unfair, from the perspective of the British colonists, the 1765 Stamp Act. Why or why not? Fair or unfair? Who was Crispus Attucks? Number 9. Number 10. Explain the causes of the American Revolution. This has been Bowtie Guy and Wife. Make sure you check out our blog, bowtieguyandwife.com. Make sure you check out our Facebook page, YouTube channel, Pinterest page, and Twitter. Thank you.